I've paid for 4 different content management tools over the last 6 months, and these were not free trials. These were fully paid for with my own money, fully migrated my business into them. And after wasting so much time, I left them. And this happened multiple times. And for each iteration of that, I would tell myself the exact same thing. I said, this one's it. This is the perfect setup. This is going to solve all of my problems. And obviously, it didn't. The only reason why I tried so many different variations and iterations of all these different tools and software is that I was in the process of rebuilding the curriculum and what I wanted to teach inside of my signature program called the content system. And what I wanted to deliver to students was the best thing that I could think of. I'm like, I need to make sure this is fully locked in so that I can teach it appropriately. And at some point, all of that migration and testing and endless hours of YouTube tutorials learning new software, I realized that it was taking more time than actually creating the content itself. And that was not a good thing for me. So what it boiled down to after 6 months of testing is that I did not need a better tool or a better set of tools. I needed far less handoffs between those tools. So today I want to talk you through all of the tools that I've tried because I guarantee you are probably in at least one of them. And I want to talk about why each one of those broke for me, and you might be experiencing similar things. And then, of course, we're going to get into the quick little demo of the setup that I am fully moved into now. So first we need to talk about what a content system actually is. And a lot of people kind of confuse system with workflows and tools and things like that. A system is the all-encompassing process, like the steps that you have to take, all of the tools involved, and any handoffs between even people. The system encompasses all of that. And that can be true in your business, that can be true in your life, but it is especially true for your content system. So we need to name what are all the steps that it takes for me to come up with a content idea and to get it posted. We need to think about all the tools that are involved with that. And then we have to think about all the people, if you have a team, that are involved with that. And the primary goal of a system is that we want to make sure that we can recreate that same process, that same system, day in, day out, month in, month out, whatever that looks like for you. So for my content system, it basically needs to house my entire content repurposing process. So the way that I approach content creation is that I create one long form YouTube video, you're watching it here, and it breaks down into all of my other short form content and marketing materials. Now, this involves a lot of steps, a lot of processes, a lot of different tools. And at one point it did involve other people, but right now it is just me operating this system. I don't want to go into too many details, but you can watch this YouTube video here where I walk you through my entire content system and how you can set one up for yourself. And now I have been inside of content systems. I've been building them for myself, for my students, for my clients for 6, 7, 8 years at this point. It's been a while since I have been really rooted in systems. And the biggest thing that happens as I'm auditing, as I'm building, is that the handoffs are always the hardest part. So how are we getting this tool to talk to this tool? How are we getting this person to give the information to this person? And so those are always the problem areas, is when we have to switch into a different tool, switch into a different person, switch into a different mindset. So as I've been developing systems and as I've been testing out new tools, is figuring out where those fall offs happen in those handoffs themselves. So for example, right now, let's say you sit down to record any kind of video and you're doing it on your iPhone. Now you have to figure out how to airdrop that to yourself or connect it to your computer, save it to Dropbox, upload it to Google Drive, whatever that looks like. For me, my system, and I noticed that was a huge handoff for me, or I would have to upload all kinds of files and it would take forever and switch out this memory card and that memory card and lose all kinds of information to storage issues. Now, what I do is I have my DJI that I'm currently recording on connected directly into my computer. And instead of recording on a memory card, it records inside my editing software. So I am removing those friction points in those handoffs so that my system doesn't fail at that point. This is so much easier than trying to do what I was doing before manually. Now imagine a small problem like that compounding throughout your entire system. It slows the whole thing down. It is no longer efficient. And so as I was testing new tools for this content system, I had to really ask myself, is this tool adding something? Is it worth it? Where are those handoff points? Is it failing anywhere? And I know you see a lot of stuff on social media right now where people are building these gorgeous like Claude dashboards, or they're talking about AI agents and all these different things. And a lot of people aren't talking about what it took to get there and all the tools they had to manage and add into that system, add it into that workflow. And when those tools live in different worlds and you have to connect them in weird ways, that's where things become broken. So we need to talk about my tool graveyard and what it took to get to this point. So first and foremost, between 2020 and 2024, I was primarily using Airtable to manage all of my content. And this is also when I was a social media manager, social media agency owner, and I would even manage client content in there. And then what we would have to do is take all of that content, once it was approved, we'd have to copy and paste and download and export and upload everything into Later. Later was my preferred social media scheduling tool for a very long time because it was one of the most robust tools out there while also still being very user-friendly. And it was really adapted for small business owners. Then in 2024 to 2025, when I really dove headfirst into amplifying my personal brand and I really didn't have to manage clients as much, I did make the switch into Notion and Metricool. Number one being it was cheaper. Both of those tools were significantly cheaper than what I had set up in Airtable and Later. But also, since I wasn't managing as many clients, I didn't need as many robust features as both of those tools offered, and I was just focusing on myself. And so the switch into Notion made sense because it felt more visual and I was doing a lot of visual heavy content, and Metricool worked really well in terms of my content repurposing system. They had some really great tools and features in there that leaned into not only my process, but what I teach as well. But then at the beginning of this year, as I was revamping curriculum, I switched back fully into Airtable, and that took weeks of my time. And then I realized that there were things I didn't like about Airtable. While yes, it worked for myself, teaching it to students was going to be very difficult. There's going to be a very big learning curve. And honestly, Airtable is expensive in the way that I set it up. So then I hopped over to ClickUp because I work with agency owners inside of ClickUp, and it makes a lot of sense for that type of business. And then as I was playing, I'm like, I know how to use ClickUp. I know what it does. But again, for small business owners and people that I'm trying to teach inside of the content system, that is overwhelming. ClickUp comes with a very steep learning curve. I literally tried anything and everything over the last 6 months. And ultimately, I gave up on all of them. And while that might look like a waste of time on the outside, and sometimes I lost sleep over how much time I thought I was wasting, ultimately, not only was this better for myself, but it was better for me to be able to teach it to other people in the easiest, most efficient way as possible. Now, my content creation tool tech stack, that's a mouthful, but hang in there with me. That just means all the different software that I use to create content. It's a lot leaner now, but I do want to say that there might be a little bit of sticker shock when it comes to what you might pay monthly. Just because it is leaner does not always mean that it is cheaper. Yes, there are less tools to manage, but those tools do a lot more. So the price might equal the same. So maybe right now you have 6 different tools that you use to create content, and we get it down to 2 or 3. Those 2 or 3 might be just as expensive as the 6. So definitely want to give that big caveat. Now, I do want to give you the breakdown of the pricing of what I pay for. And I want to give you context that I am on the higher tier plans for all of these tools and software because content creation is my business. So just know that, again, if you get sticker shock from some of these, just know that I am on those premium, professional, upgraded tiers because I create so much content. And you, by all means, might just need the basic plan. You might even be able to get away with the free plan for a while. But I do want to say that content support, I used to spend anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000 a month to have somebody help me. And eventually, I think I will bring that back into my business at some point. But I just want to let you know that as you're starting to price out these different tools and build your content system and the tools inside of it, sometimes it is still cheaper than hiring support in a particular season. So getting into the tech stack. Number one, which I think we all probably use, is Canva. I am on just the basic plan, the basic paid plan, which is like $12 or $13 a month, I believe. I do recommend upgrading from the free plan for Canva. It is relatively inexpensive and you get access to so many more features. But you, by all means, probably do not need a Teams account, probably do not need an enterprise account, but that $12 will pay for itself. And then my video editing tool, which is called Descript, does a lot more for me than just video editing. I am recording in here, I am scripting in here. There are some built-in AI tools in here. There are templates in here. So again, this is not just like your plain Jane like CapCut. I do pay $65 a month for Descript. I am on a higher tier. You can probably get away with the $20 to $30 a month plan if you are just doing things by yourself, but there are premium features that I like to use that require me to pay a little bit more. Now, this one's going to shock you. I actually have the Claude Max account, which is $100 a month, and sometimes I exceed my usage and I will pay more. Again, you do not need that. I do recommend that you pay for at least the Pro, which I believe is around $20 a month, just because it is going to allow you to access certain features and have a little bit more usage. You do not need to pay $100 plus a month for Claude. This is me really experimenting, really testing, and getting the prep work done for my students inside of the content system so they don't have to go spend that money. So Claude is a little bit pricier in my business, but probably wouldn't be in yours. Now, this last tool, this is the one that has allowed me to get rid of so much software. It has really reduced that tech stack, and it is actually called Rella. This has now combined all the Airtables, the Notions, the ClickUps, along with the scheduling tool, the Later, the Planoly, the Metricool. It combines it all in one tool. So yes, it is a little bit pricier. Yes, I am on a higher tiered plan, but there are some cheaper plans that you can always get started with. But Rella cost me about $59 a month. And honestly, I am thinking about switching to the enterprise account, which is like their biggest, toppest tier. Again, because content is my business, it makes sense for me, but for you, you can always start at the lower tier. Now, when you add all this up, I am spending anywhere between $250 and $300 a month just in the tools I use to create content. Again, remember, that is going to be sticker shock for a lot of people. Content creation is part of my business, and I used to pay a lot more to have content support. So for me, this is a justifiable cost, and for you, it might look around like the $100 a month mark. Don't worry, I'm going to walk you through my entire Rella setup here in just a second, but I want to quickly dive into where each of these tools actually lost me. And I think this is going to be good information for you if you use any of these tools and you are considering switching or considering leaving for any reason. So first, let's talk about Notion, because Notion is the golden child. Seems to be the standard across the business world, especially in the creative side. And I understand why. Notion is highly visual. It is very customizable. It is literally like this endless workspace, and you can create whatever you want to create and make it look however you want to look. And that sounds great in theory, but somebody like me with ADHD, I thought it was going to be the solution to all my problems because I could create whatever I wanted to create. And that was the problem, is that I would take so much more time formatting the workspace, formatting the cards, making sure things look pretty than actually using the system and letting it function as it should be. And instead I was like, just having fun. It felt like an arts and crafts project to me. And then also, as I've gotten more into the world of automation, I just don't think Notion's built-in AI. I don't think their automations are really all that good. I think they glitch a lot. And I know other people would disagree with me, but personally, I felt like I had to add in Zapier connections or use Make or some of these other platforms just to get things to work in a very simple way. And maybe it was just me, maybe it was user error, but I didn't think it was all that simple. So for those couple of reasons, I had to switch. Now, Airtable. I literally said a couple of months ago very publicly that I switched back into Airtable because I thought I was truly going to stick with it this time. And I will stand 10 tones down on it that I probably would if I had not switched into Rella. There were two main reasons why I personally left Airtable. Number one, I did not like it for task management. So not only just the content creation tasks that I had that were like repeat or maybe one-off, it was hard to manage that in there. And I'm like, I don't know where I can put a to-do list, where I can put a checklist, where I can put these repeat tasks inside of Airtable. It just didn't work the way I wanted it to. And alongside that, I really wanted Airtable to work across my business. And again, task management was just not there. Airtable works really well as a content management system, meaning I can see where pieces of content are, but not task management. And then number two, I built really custom interfaces and had all these cool automations and really built it out so robust. And what ended up happening is, number one, it was going to be pretty expensive for my students to then put into their workspaces and manage. And I honestly just thought it was overly complicated and overly expensive for what it offered for people. And honestly, some of the interfaces that I built were really freaking cool, but they were also really freaking slow because I wanted to make it as easy for people to use as possible. And ultimately, I just couldn't give that type of product over to people and make them pay money for it. ClickUp was a serious consideration because I will admit, I hated ClickUp a few years ago. I have been working inside of ClickUp with some of my bigger clients that are on the agency side of the world, and I have actually fully switched my business tasks, all my projects, how I manage and run my business. I have switched into ClickUp because it does work really well. I hate to admit that, but after being in it for a few years, I do understand why businesses use it as project management, as task management, and things like that. And honestly, I made it work so well for content management. There were some things that I had to hack and play around with, and I thought it was going to work. But two reasons why I left it behind for content specifically is one, trying to deliver that to my students. I just didn't think it was going to be easy enough for them to use. I felt like there was going to be a learning curve, and I felt like people would get in there and drop off the curriculum immediately because it was so overwhelming. And again, that's not an experience I wanted to deliver. And then number two, getting that content outside of ClickUp and into a scheduling tool, just again, that was another handoff point. I felt like it was easier than some other platforms, but again, I don't want to be copying and pasting from ClickUp to Later. That felt so ridiculous. And lastly, Metricool and some of the other scheduling tools out there like Later, Planoly, Repurpose.io. What I have noticed in particular with these scheduling only tools or these content distribution tools, number one, they have become entirely too glitchy for me, and I need reliability. And it's sometimes things wouldn't post properly, or sometimes they're like, oh, we don't have that feature anymore, or sometimes they'd be slow to give features. And for me, it didn't feel good. I'm like, I thought these tools were supposed to work for me, and I'm paying a lot of money for them. A lot of them are very expensive now. And then also, I think they all have recently shifted into focusing on big, large enterprise clients, meaning they're not thinking about the small business owners. They're not even really thinking about social media managers anymore. They are attacking those larger, bigger businesses and trying to get those enterprise type of accounts. And now there's nothing wrong with that. That's their business model. But again, for those few reasons is why I left traditional scheduling tools behind. Okay, so diving into my actual Rella setup, I do want to give the caveat, I have only been in this platform for about 3, maybe 4 weeks of testing now. And so there are still things that I do not have fully set up. There are things that I am still learning about this platform, but overall, I am entirely way too obsessed with it. So as you can see, I didn't start actually posting content until the last week in July. And I was testing and playing around with things in July. And here is where we are at today. I literally have so much content going out. So I want to give you a quick run through first and foremost what I do have set up. And then secondly, I will also, as we're going through this, talk to you about what I plan to set up in here and just kind of let you know overall about what the customizations look like in here. Remember, I am on that middle tier plan. So I don't have the basic plan. I have that middle tier, and I am considering upgrading to the top tier just for some of the AI usage and some of the custom branding that you can do in here. So just want to give you that caveat before we dive in. So I'm just going to start at the very, very top. You would come in here and customize this entire profile to yourself. There is a lot that you can do in here, even down to, like I was saying, the branding. I'm considering switching to that higher tier plan so that I can put my custom whitelisted brand in here so it looks like it's my tool. But even without having that feature, you can come over here and do different colors for the statuses. There's all kinds of integration. So I have it connected with almost everything except for Google Calendar. I manage all of my social media content in here, and I even manage content that they don't directly connect with. So things like your podcast, your blog post, your email. Again, this is more of a social scheduling tool. I can still add that content in here. It just wouldn't auto-publish for me, which is still a really great feature to have. You can even add multiple spaces in here. What this basically indicates is if you're a social media manager and you're managing multiple clients, each client would get a space and you can highly customize each space. Or let's say you're doing something on your own, but you have 2 different brands. You can also have both of those brands in here. For me, I just have one personal brand, so I just have one space. Tags, there's so many different ways you can use them. I personally like to use them for my content pillars. Branding, this is what I was talking about. Eventually, I think I'm going to upgrade to this. Workflows, we'll dive into in just a second. And then some other items here that you can always go in and customize. But coming into the spaces section, now this is where the setup starts to happen. I recommend that if you switch over to Rella, you start here. So first and foremost, you are going to connect all of your different social profiles. So you can see I have basically all of them connected in here. And what's really cool is that you can come into this space section, and then what you can do is you can come in here and customize each of those platforms. So you can create a custom platform. You would just name it and give it a color. So for me, this looks like email. Eventually I'm going to add back in, you can see here the podcast. This is going to be my blog, and I assign it just my brand color is what I did. So again, remember with these custom platforms, it's not going to schedule it for you, but you can manage that content here. Now with Facebook, I personally just went and grabbed the hex codes of the brands themselves. So I grabbed the exact color and the branding. So it's easy for me on a calendar view to see which platform goes where. But the cool part about this, I know plenty of people that will put their own custom brand colors in here so that it looks like those Claude dashboards that people are building, and it just feels fun and pretty. You can set up different criteria for what posts you want to automatically post for you and like all the different things. For me, I'm like standard settings, don't care, just have it go. You can add different members into the space. And then this is where it gets really custom and where I want you to spend some time. So basically these things called available statuses. This is anything that you could possibly think of that you would want a status for. So for me, there's always a new idea, there's an approved, and there's posted. And then everything in between this active, this might look a little bit different for you. So scripting, this is if I'm scripting a video or scripting a piece of content. Recording, obvious, I need to record that piece of content. Editing, okay, I need to edit that content. And then in progress for things that are kind of don't live in those other statuses. Now, what you can do is the cool thing about Rella is you can not only manage content, but you can manage tasks. So for me, I make sure for the content facing pieces, so those actual pieces of content, it has everything except for that in progress. Now with the task, I say I only have an idea, in progress, approved, and posted. Yours might look a little different, but you can basically have difference for your actual content and then the content tasks. And what this looks like is if you come into, let's go into the actual space itself, you can see in this board view, here's my actual content and here are my content tasks. So content, these are the specific pieces that are going to go out on YouTube, going to go out on Instagram. And then tasks, something might be like do community management or update Instagram profile or something like that. This is a feature that I have not played around with as much yet because again, I manage my tasks inside of ClickUp, but this is a great option for you if you don't use something like ClickUp. Okay, so quickly coming back up to the overview, this dashboard you can fully customize with cards and things like that. For me, I thought it was a little overwhelming, so I deleted everything except for my assigned work. Clearly, I don't have anything assigned to me right now because I just don't have that task feature. And then you have the calendar. So this is where you can see not only all of your content, but all of your tasks as well. There is a notification section, and then there are the spaces section. So obviously where I mentioned before, this is where you would put individual clients or individual brands. So there's a drop down here. If you just click on my social spaces, obviously named Amber Figlow, there are a few different views. So we'll switch back into content. Here's a traditional board view where you can drag and drop these back and forth. There's a table view. This is the one I probably use the least. Calendar is probably the one I use the most. Between board and calendar are the two that I use. Previews will just show you what that piece of content looks like. Don't use this one as much yet. Inbox, I don't use this one at all because I just find it to be a little bit slow. It's still in beta. I like to do my community management natively on the platforms. I respond to Instagram comments on Instagram and I respond to YouTube comments on YouTube. And then there is a notes section, which I thought was really cool. Again, I have ClickUp for a lot of my note taking and SOPs and things that I want to maintain. But if you have notes around how you create content, where you create content, something that might be cool to have a note of, or like all the different social links you have. And maybe you want to put your content pillars in here. Maybe you want to put your strategy in here. Whatever that is, you can add that here. So another reason why I moved into Rella is because they also offer analytics. You could pay just for an analytics tool. So again, it's starting to combine tools together. So you see why it's worth paying a little bit more money to have it all in one place. This is so robust and it's going to be a video in and of itself at some point, but I can generate reports. You can see this is super highly visual. It gives me all of my top performing content, helps me just analyze what's going on. And then underneath that, you have something called projects, and everybody sets up their projects in different ways. For me, I do it based on platform. Other people do it based on month. So if you're a social media manager for each client, you might want to have a different folder for each month so that you can send them that content calendar, or you can get approval for that month's worth of posts. Some people do it based on, okay, this is promotional content. This is educational content. This is this type of content. You can set up a project however you want. But for me, what I like to do is have it for my different platforms. So my main long form platform is YouTube. Then I have one for email. Like I was saying, you can come in here, and while this one didn't post for me, I still have my entire email in here, which I thought was really cool. Instagram, this is my main short form platform. Threads, which is another main short form platform for me that is text-based. And then I have a repurposing project, which basically means any of this content up here that can go live on another platform, it's in here. So for instance, like the Instagram videos, I make sure that they go out on Shorts, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. And this is more me cross-posting content. So I'm not really changing much of the video. Sometimes I'll adjust the cover, sometimes I'll adjust the caption, but this is like literally taking content I've already created and putting it out on other platforms. And then very quickly, there's actually not that much to customize inside of the cards themselves. It's going to change based on whatever platform you have selected, but this is where you can have different people assigned to this. If you have team members, these are the statuses that we created, the project, which are those ones I just walked you through, and then you can select the platform. And what I really like about Rella is you can can select the type of content it is based on that platform. So Instagram post is going to be your feed post or your carousel. Story is obviously a story, and then they allow for trial reels as well. I just have Instagram reel selected. Tags is where you would put I have my content pillars, but you could add whatever tags you wanted. You can schedule it, you can auto post it, caption, and then these are Instagram specific fields. So this part will change based on the platform. And then for me, this one isn't as robust, but as you saw on my email card, it had a ton of information, but this is where you can put notes. This is where you can put your content ideas. You guys can just have fun with this. And this works similar to Notion where there's some formatting. Then you have private comments. This is really important if you have a team and you're a social media manager. You guys can have conversations back and forth that clients can't see. Then you can have public chat threads where your clients can come in and say, I don't like that image, swap it out, this, that. You can communicate with clients here. And then my favorite is Ella. This is their built-in AI tool. And now you can use Ella within a card to work on a particular piece of content. But my favorite feature, and again, why I think it's helpful to switch into a platform that encompasses all of this. Let's say you don't want to pay that much for Claude, or you don't want to use Claude at all. You could technically get on a higher tier Rella plan and not need these other AI tools. I'm a crazy person and I still want both, but for you, maybe this is enough for you and you don't need some robust Claude setup. So basically what you can do is there's a few different kind of things that you can do with Ella. This is my least used feature so far because again, I have a robust Claude setup, but I did test it for some YouTube brainstorming, but this is where you can have a conversation. This is like a normal chat window and you can go back and forth with the tool. There are saved prompts that they give you. You can create your own, but they also give you some in here that you can run, like batch content ideas for the month. You can have, oh, here's some response templates. You pull quotes from a video. There's a ton of different stuff in here that you can play around with. Again, I haven't gotten so much into this because I use Claude, but my favorite thing inside of here are workflows. And this is something that I am starting to build out and understand more about Rella itself. So basically what it'll do is on a schedule, it will do a repeat set of tasks for you. They give you a ton of different templates in here so you can take a look and see what's best for you in your workflow. For me right now, the only two I have set up is a monthly content digest. So all I did was talk to this tool and tell it what I wanted it to do, and it built this for me. So this looks absolutely crazy, but literally all I did was have a conversation with it. I said, I want this to be similar to a weekly content digest to be delivered on the first of the month. I built this weekly content digest first, but basically this is how I review my analytics once a month. I said, find the previous month posted content, generate an analytics report, analyze that analytics report, and then send it to me as an email. So I get this on the first of the month automatically into my email. It's a nice reminder for me to go back into this dashboard and review anything else, but it gives me a nice synthesized way of this is what's working, this is what doesn't, that kind of thing. So I just built that workflow last week, so I technically won't see it until September 1st, and I'm recording this on August 12th, but I did do a test workflow and had it regressively go back and look at July. So this is what it did. It's told me my major wins, what's working, what's not working, what my audience growth trends look like. This is something I prompted it to do. I said, help me find content gaps. So what are people not talking about, but people are asking a lot of questions about, so that I could go and answer those in a piece of content. And then the cool part about this is you can check out the full breakdown and post by post, and you click here and it will generate it for you. See, it pulled up my actual analytics report that it pulled. So I can continue to analyze this even further, which I absolutely love. So then coming back into here, I also have a weekly content digest. So this is just something I receive on Monday mornings just to have a quick snapshot. So monthly, I look deep dive in my analytics and I really analyze things and review things and make any pivots that I need to make. But it is sometimes nice to just see a quick snapshot of, hey, how did last week go? So I have it run a weekly content digest on Monday mornings. So what that looks like is it just gives me a week at a glance. I put out 24 pieces of content across 7 platforms, tells me what's working, what's not working, what I should maybe lean into this next week. So it said lean into Instagram carousels. My carousels performed everything else last week. So they're like, hey, do some more. And then just gives me some content ideas to try. So based on what worked well, what content gaps there are, it actually gave me content ideas. And I could go back into Ella and be like, hey, from this week's weekly digest, add cards, which is insane. You can actually tell it to create the content cards for you, give you ideas, things like that. This is the most powerful part of Rella, I do believe. And you can also come in here, runs are just basically anytime your workflows ran, but your persona, you can actually build out a custom persona so that anytime it gives you any type of content or helps you think of content ideas, it knows you, it builds your personal brand. So you can do Ella assisted or you can do a questionnaire, but basically Rella will always access this when it is giving me any type of suggestion. So it has my entire content strategy, and it's not just like randomly grabbing things off the internet. This is so specific and custom to me. But that's pretty much Rella overall at a glance. And I have so many more ideas for tutorials coming. So make sure you leave any of your questions in the comment section below, and I'll definitely get to those in future videos. But overall, 3 weeks in, this has been an absolute game changer for me in terms of managing my content and just seeing, you can see I post a lot of content, but overall it helps minimize those handoffs because each of these pieces of content, not only did I manage them in here, but they are getting posted on my behalf, which is just chef's kiss. So if you can take one thing from this video is to make it not just about the tool, but make it about the process underneath the tool before you decide to make a switch. Because I gave you a lot of information. I talked about a lot of different tools, and I just want to fully acknowledge and reiterate as many times as I can. Yes, I changed my tool stack and I changed all of these over the last 6 months to a year, a lot of different times. But just remember that, again, this is my job. This is what I do day in and day out. So I had the capacity for that. But knowing you as a small business owner, you may not have time to migrate tools all the time. Just know that it will take your time and energy and potentially money. So make sure that you are really looking and refining your process underneath. So see where those holes are, see where things are falling apart, see where content doesn't get moved or where it doesn't get posted before you decide to switch your tools entirely. Now, I did the hard work for you. And if you do like the idea of a system like this is actually something I teach inside of my program called the Content System. You'll get a really quick curriculum to dive into. I'm going to give you the templates and basically the ways that you would approach this and make it as plug and play as possible with just a few small tweaks for your business. But the good thing about my program is that it includes weekly coaching calls that are themed around specific things, but making sure that I'm holding you accountable and making sure we're getting that content published and using the content system as effectively as possible. You can get more information at the link in the description below. Otherwise, leave all of your questions, especially about Rella, because I'm going to do some more videos soon, in the comment section below. Otherwise, don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.